I've got a different type of necklace here on head pins, using smaller beads rather than the mixed beads we've been doing. Still again, 2-inch head pins. I've got a mixture here of 4mm and 6mm glass beads, both plain round and faceted. And I've got 3 different colours of rock eyes. These are all size 8. And I've just got a wooden bead there that I'm going to actually do as a clasp at the end. So on the head pins, I've just got a random assortment here. I mean, some people like to do it in more of a pattern, but I just do it randomly. And I put between 1 and 4 beads on altogether, including rock eyes. So for this one, I've just got a 6mm faceted and 2 rock eyes. But just as with all the others, bend over the top of that head pin first. Cut off the excess, so you've got about 1 centimetre left. The very end of the wire, you need to grip part way down the pliers and then twist it back over the top. You'll get part way round and then you won't be able to actually do up the loop. You have to reposition the pliers and do it up to finish. So we're going to do a few of those. As I say, just randomly. This time I've put on 1 6mm and 2 4mm beads. Bend over the top. Cut off that excess and then make the loop with the round nose pliers until it's touching back on itself. As I say, don't worry too much if you're not getting your loops completely round, as long as they're touching back on themselves and secure. So a couple of rock eyes this time and then a bead on the top. As I say, I tend to do these just totally randomly, but you can do a pattern if you prefer. But again, it's useful for using up if you've got all sorts of different shaped beads left over from another project. So we'll do a few of these. I'm going to thread this one onto elasticity this time. I've made this as quite a short choker, and I just find on the elasticity it just gives it a little bit more give if you're wearing it quite tight around the neck. Finish that off. On this short one, just to give you an idea, I've got 100 of these little dangling head pins. So it just gives you an idea of how many beads you're going to need. As I say, I've got between 1 and 4 beads on each head pin. So I find it easiest to make a lot of these up first and then actually thread them on, rather than making each one and threading each one as you go along. So I'll do a couple more and then I'll show you how we actually put them on the elasticity. I just find having a few beads in slightly different shades, obviously these are all purple of some sort, but slightly different shades, just again give it a bit more texture and depth rather than them all being the same colour. There we go, I'll do this one and then we'll thread some on. So it's always the round nose pliers for making anything with loops on it. Okay, so I've got a few there. Now I've got elasticity here. This is a 0.8mm elasticity, and it's actually a lot stronger than people think. It holds its shape well, it doesn't sort of sag and give. What I've got on this one, you can see here, is I've just got a loop and a bead closure. So I'm going to start off by threading. I've got 15 rock eyes on there. As I say, these are size 8, so they're quite a decent size. And these will fit onto this elasticity. If you're using a smaller rock eye, you will need to use a thinner elasticity, or you could obviously thread it on a Nymo type thread or something like that instead. So 15 of these. Again, I'm just doing them in random colours, but having the 3 there just breaks it up a little bit, 3 different colours. Oops. How are we getting on there? When I knot this, the knots on the elasticity can slip undone, a bit like with nylon or fishing wire. So a little trick is to put a little dab of nail varnish, preferably clear, or a little dab of glue onto the knots, and that just helps set them. And if you leave it to dry before you cut the tail ends of the elasticity off, it will just hold it. Right, so I threaded my rock eyes on there, and all I'm going to do is just tie those in a knot so that I've got a loop. And as I say, a little bit of clear nail varnish will just hold that knot. I'm not going to do that now because I'm going to get a bit messy, but say literally just dab it on the knot, and then once it's dry you can trim off the tail ends. So that's my loop. So what I'm going to do is start off with one rock eye in whichever colour, and then one of my head pins, and slide that down. Then another rock eye, oops, and another head pin. Now I find one rock eye between each head pin just spaces it out quite nicely. So it's like this, it's still quite bunched, but you can obviously put more rock eyes between each head pin if you prefer it to be a bit more spaced out or a slightly flatter look rather than this quite bunched look that I've got here. And just keep going like this all the way around. As I say again, random rock eyes between each head pin, but if you prefer you could do all one colour or keep it as a pattern. Oops. There we go, so you can see how that's coming together, just like that. I've got one here that I've threaded up completely, so I can just show you how to put the bead on the other end. As I say, there's about 100 head pins on there, but that makes quite a short choker, so you need to obviously measure it yourself around your neck as you're going along before you finish it. But once I've got to that end, all I'm going to do is, as I say, this is just a wooden bead I've got here, this is a 10mm, thread that on, then I'm going to put a rock eye on, and then that means with this elasticity I'm going to go around this rock eye but back through that bigger bead. So you can see that the rock eye there is like a little stopper on the end. And then again I'm just going to knot this around itself. Do that. So if you just do that and do a couple of knots, pull it nice and tight, and then again a little dab of glue or a little dab of nail varnish on there just to set that before you trim the end off. And then because it's on the elasticity, that little loop just stretches to fit over there, and that's it all finished.